Hi everyone, my name is Levi Cosijn, and in this video I want to talk about the Zodiac. See, the Zodiac is a powerful archetypal image. It's the image of the circle or the wheel. And of course, circles are widely expressed in nature, in planets, for example, on the macrocosmic level, and on the microcosmic level in atoms and molecules and so on. And these images, these symbols represent eternal truth or an all-encompassing reality, right? The center of the wheel remains while everything turns or moves around it. Now, to lay some groundwork, I think it's worthwhile discussing archetypes a little bit. So let's start with the etymology, okay? Coming from Greek, archetypos, right? Arche meaning beginning or origin, and typos meaning model, form, or image. And we can distinguish between archetypes an sich, or the archetypes as such, and archetypal images. The first refers to the elementary structures, which are unconscious and impossible to apprehend. They are the primordial images, right? They're in fact considered a priori, meaning what must come before sense observation, or what is independent of experience. A priori is a term that was popularized by Immanuel Kant, and Jung was, of course, inspired by Kant's categories and Plato's, forms or ideas. Also, in Vedantic philosophy, we have a similar idea, the concept of brahman and atma. Brahman being the potential for consciousness, which has no qualities, and then atma being the active brahman, right, being the perceiver, the experiencer, being the entity that experiences consciousness from a particular point of view, okay? It's identifiable, it's individual, it has individuality, so it has qualities, right? So, but these are one, right? This is an eternal truth. There's no sequence involved. The Atma has the power of karma, right? Karma means action, the chain of action. So it has the power to create a body, the ego, and to dive into the physical realm, right? So it's a similar idea. Now, the archetypes as such are universal, archaic patterns and images that derive from the collective unconscious. And they are the psychic counterparts, relating to the psyche of instinct. Okay, so let's explain that a little bit. The collective unconscious refers to the structures of the unconscious mind, right, which are shared among members of the same species. Okay, so we can look at the collective unconscious as the collective memory of humanity. So in the collective unconscious lives, or the collective unconscious is populated by instincts and the primordial images. Okay, and I mentioned them being the psychic counterpart of instinct. Okay, because these are inherited. That's the connection. And to illuminate this a little more, I want to introduce the theory of morphic resonance, right, which can shed some light on all this and to get a better understanding. Morphic resonance is a theory that was put forward, or that is put forward, by Rupert Sheldrake, a British biologist. And it's particularly interesting in the context of the collective unconscious. And so what is morphic resonance? Morphic resonance is a connection across time from the past to the present. It involves a process that occurs between organized patterns of activity on the basis of similarity. This is how Sheldrake defines it. So, basically this means each species has collective memory, which it tunes into, right? So humans tune into the form and behavior of humans that have come before. Rats tune into the form and behavior of rats that have come before. So we're talking about an inheritance here. And according to mainstream science, inheritance is a purely material process, right? It's about DNA and genes, and DNA codes for protein, right, which are the building blocks of our bodies. But morphic resonance suggests and shows that there's some kind of field process involved, because morphic resonance works through morphic fields, okay? And morphic fields are self-organizing fields of biological and chemical systems. So it's not only applying or pertaining to humans and animals, but in fact, all biological and chemical systems, so planets, electrons, protons, organs, and so on. So I think that's interesting in the context of the collective unconscious, because I think it reinforces it. Okay, so if we're thinking about the phenomena of consciousness and, for example, ideas or thoughts, where are our thoughts located? Are they located in the brain, or is it a field phenomenon? Okay, so in thinking about the collective unconscious, I think it's helpful to have that perspective as well. And if you can connect that also to Vedantic thinking, there's going to be a lot of overlap there. Of course, Rupert Sheldrake lived for a long time in India. Okay, so he was definitely influenced. Okay, so these archetypes as such have a predisposition to form archetypal images. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the archetypes. When these inherited potentials enter consciousness as images, or manifest in behavior in interacting with the outside world, they are actualized. And so these archaic, elementary, primordial structures are autonomous, right? And hidden. They're hidden forms, but they are transformed when they enter consciousness, and they're expressed by humans, right? By individuals and their cultures. And so the existence of these primordial structures or images can only be deduced indirectly, right? By using story, myth, religion, art. So there's an innumerable expression of archetypes. Jung always said that, this is his famous quote, right? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, right? So it's important to understand what archetypes are playing and what archetype we're experiencing, we're living. Now let's give some examples. The anima, the animus, the shadow, right? These are commonly known. Also the archetype of the Great Mother, right, which you can find in all religions and myth and cultures, right? Mary as the Galilean Jewish woman, supposedly the mother of Jesus, according to the New Testament. Isis in Egypt, Kali, the Hindu goddess, the witches, Lilith, the Jewish demon goddess mentioned in the Talmud, then also Sophia in Hellenistic philosophy and Gnosticism and Christianity. The archetype of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the archetype of hell, the archetype of the disturbing aspects of the collective unconscious, the tree of life, right? So the tree is an important archetype, but there's so many, right? And so we as humans give expression to that. It's always very important to look at stories, myth, and the deeper meaning. If we have that approach when we look at a horoscope, then we can really dive deep into the symbols, the mythology, and what is actually being conveyed to us from our subconscious regions. And so we're constantly in dialogue with that and trying to grasp that, express that into hopefully something positive and enlightening. I co-authored a book with Carmina Amza, Astrology Explained, Ancient Principles for the Modern Mind, which you can find on my website.